Hi everybody, this is Dan Stolbarger. Welcome to this week's update in which we look back over the events that have transpired. It's August 8th. Reminder, grab the PDF PowerPoint that accompanies this short YouTube presentation, photos, and much more information than I have time for as we record on YouTube. So, I always begin with as I see it, and once again, it's going to be all about where do we find truth? Where do we find clarity? Who can we trust? And it was the late Republican Senator Hiram Johnson's quote that simply said, the first casualty of war is the truth. And when it comes to the Middle East, when it comes to Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, should I go on and on, the Houthis, Israel, where do we find truth? And so that's behind the reason for this report is, to the best of my ability, I have a myriad of sources from Israel that I kind of pour through and then try to do a 15-minute weekly update. I'm sure that all my sources are not infallible, but yet, on the other hand, we cannot trust the media of today. And I don't care where you stand, whether it's ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox News. I can go on and on. The media's job today is not to inform the electorate, but to manage the electorate. So anyhow, that's the reason behind this report. We usually begin with our news bites, and President Biden is making it clear to Bibi, quit messing with me. That's put it in a polite way. But the president has said that while the U.S. will help defend Israel, that the president believes that Jerusalem was taking actions such as the assassinations that have increased regional tensions. In so many words, he's saying you're not spending enough time bringing about a ceasefire. You're retaliating, so you need to do it my way. That's at the heart of all of this. Biden also went on to say, don't take me for granted, because as president, I may not be willing to come to Israel's defense in the future. And so we know it's a political year, and we know that a lot of decisions are being, in a sense, made through the lenses of what's best for the Biden-Harris administration or the Trump administration. Pakistan, again in our news bites, is the only Muslim country that possesses a nuclear weapon, and they've made it clear. They've declared that they would be willing to supply Iran with a medium-range ballistic missile to be used against Israel. And then, no big news here, but the planner behind October 7th, Sinwar, that is, has been named as the new head of Hamas. And that diplomatic title is not going to keep the crosshairs off Yanwar Sinwar. Israel is looking to take him out whenever possible. The mastermind behind the October 7th massacres. And then finally, Iran's UN mission told CBS News that Hezbollah from Lebanon will attack civilian targets inside of Israel, which means babies, women, hospitals, schools. And despite the clear threat that they're making, the UN NGOs and protesters remain absolutely silent. So that's our news bites for this week. Our main articles, we begin with an article that's just entitled Breaking the Silence. It's been a week now with threats being made. It's a waiting game. When will Iran strike? How will they strike? What about Hezbollah? Everybody's threatening and rattling their sabers. This waiting game is part of the terrorist psychological warfare. Many Israelis today are absolutely paralyzed, waiting and staying close to shelters. So this is the psychological nature of terrorism. And I'm going to interject here. That's why even with hostages, negotiations, and ceasefires, don't be surprised, because it's the ploy. It's the effects that they're after. Don't be surprised if, when it comes to a ceasefire or the hostage negotiations, that right up to the final minute, where everything seems to be, we finally got this done, if the rug is pulled out. Because that's what terrorism wants to do. Give you hope and then dash it. I'm not sure. I hope, I pray I'm wrong. But I don't think Hamas has any intentions to ever release another hostage. And I'm not sure how many are still alive today. Like I said, I hope, I pray that I'm wrong. Again, this warfare that's going on, this psychological warfare. Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah in the north, his quote is, the Israelis having to wait is part of our punishment. Standby mode that we're in is part of the battle. All of Israel is shaking today, worried today, frightening today. That's our plan. But we will strike. And it's interesting, as Nasrallah was giving this speech, Israeli fighter jets flew low and fast over the skies of Beirut, creating massive supersonic booms. And again, at the exact time that Nasrallah was speaking. And that created panic on the side of Lebanon at that time. What is happening? And then sad to say, we're going to report what seems to be Biden's and Harris's strategy regarding Iran. How are they going to protect or whatever? But it seems that the situation concerning Israel and the United States is growing increasingly more concerning. A central tenet of the IDF war doctrine is that Israel must and can preempt any attack on its land. But Washington is saying no preemptive strike. I don't care what information you say that you have. And they're sort of turning the screws and basically saying in so many words, you're going to have to sit and take whatever is dealt to you. We don't want a war. Sit and take it. And so any mass Israeli casualties in this war literally will be on Biden and Kamala's. It's their watch. They're determining that fate. David Friedman, love him. Again, Secretary of State Friedman, or the diplomat, I should say, to Israel. I love his quotes. He says, how to avoid a regional war in the Middle East. That seems to be imminent. He says, the Biden-Harris approach is simply that they're pleading, begging with Iran not to attack, or to attack just symbolically only. And in exchange, promises will be given. Promise that there'll be pressure on Israel for concessions, etc., etc. He goes on, again, as the former ambassador to Israel from Trump during the Trump administration. He goes on, the Trump approach, I believe, would be different and better. It would go something like this. Please attack as you see fit. We've been looking for a reason to destroy your oil production facilities and set your finances back another 30 years. So please go for it. That's the bottom line. That's the differences between the two. And then we have a Gaza update. And again, with Hamas, no ceasefire over 300, what are we at now, 310 days or more. The bottom line, and this is a sobering thought, an expert on Hamas's economy, Eyal Ofer, is saying that Hamas's rocket capabilities are disabled, but its power over the population in Gaza still stands. Hamas's financial capabilities allows it to constantly recruit new members and to take over all of the humanitarian aid that enters Gaza. It's got probably 2 brigades that are left. And again, part of these negotiations, and you'll see on the maps, this is slide number 8, that Israel is basically saying there's 2 corridors that we must keep. And there's one that goes through the middle of the country. That's the above one. And of course, Israel plans to control the Philadelphia route that goes through Rafah. And they're still today continuing to find massive terror tunnels that are used to smuggle in arms or to smuggle out prisoners or whatever the case may be. Israel is saying, we will not walk away. We will have a presence in these areas. But even though Hamas's military is being decimated, they're not going to go away. Israel's not going to destroy and conquer Hamas, because Hamas is an idea. It's like a weed. Unless you pull it out completely by the roots, it's going to continue to sprout up because of the legacy of hate that resides between Islam and Judaism. Couple more. The Washington Post, tragically, look at these pictures. Again, this is slide number 9. As you look at this picture of the people that are mourning, I want you to know that on Monday, July 29th, this was the front page of the Washington Post. It displays an image of people mourning at a young child's funeral. And underneath, you know what it said? It read, Israel hits targets in Lebanon. Given the title, it should have been safe to assume that the photo is depicting the bloody result of Israel's attack in Lebanon. But the photo actually is capturing Israelis that are mourning the death of an 11-year-old girl that was killed while she was playing soccer by Hezbollah rockets that were fired from Lebanon. Again, the mistake is too astounding to just be negligence. But unfortunately, it appears to be a pattern of deliberate anti-Semitism, anti-Israel, reporting from the Washington Post. Again, the first casualty of war, what we started with today, truth. Truth. Now, in closing, there's been no major attack at the time of this recording. There are those that are looking to next week, over the weekend. This next Monday evening, Tuesday into Tuesday, is Tisha B'Av. This is the 9th of Av. And just so you know, the symmetry of what's taking place. There are those that would say that Iran will strike on this date because this is a day that's circled on all Jewish calendars as a day of intense mourning. It was on Tisha B'Av that the spies returned that Moses sent out with a bad report. And again, the results of that is God said, okay, you think you can't conquer that land? You're going to wander in the wilderness and this generation will die. There were only 2 of the 12 that said, yeah, it's going to be tough, but we can do it. Let's go. And that's, of course, Joshua and Caleb. So again, the spies returning on Tisha B'Av, basically giving a false report. And did you know that the destruction by the Babylonians of the first temple, of Solomon's temple, not a coincidence, but it happened on the 9th of Av. And then as we move on, when the Romans in 70 AD destroyed the temple, Herod's temple, guess what date? The 9th of Av. When the Jews were expelled from England in 1290, when they were expelled from Spain in 1490, 9th of Av. World War I began on the 9th of Av. Treblinka, one of the death camps, one of the earliest death camps, began operating and starting deportations from the Warsaw Ghetto. What was the date? The 9th of Av. And so whatever Iran has in mind, don't be surprised if they're waiting for this date on the calendar. All right, that's our report for this week. As we've mentioned, we're heading to Israel in November 7th through the 17th. All I can say is Israel today needs friends, not just visitors. We call this tour the land, the people, and the king. Sharon and I have led over 50 trips to Israel, and we cannot wait to go back and to walk the land and see with our own eyes and feel the emotions, to listen to the rocks that are crying out, and to worship Jesus in Israel. We can't wait. And if you would like to join us, please send us an email or check out the following information. You can go to our website at holygroundexplorations.com and sign up. Well, that's it. God bless you. Pray, 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 pray for the peace of Jerusalem in our day. Amen.